Hello, Abigail here with Tarotscopes for Gemini season, Cancer Sun, Moon, and Rising. My Cancer folks, this season is just jam packed full of transits. We have so many planets shifting into different signs. One of the major transits of 2025 is upon us. We have the Saturn ingress into Aries, and then we're going to have the Gemini, Uranus ingress into Gemini, which happens, I believe, in Cancer season. I have to go check, but these are kind of two final planetary shifts. Obviously, they're going to be retrograding back in this year as well. So obviously those are big too, but this is kind of like that grand opening that we get to experience in this season. Also, really big news for you. We get to have Jupiter in Cancer, which is something I think we're all looking forward to. No hate to Jupiter and Gemini. It is just a detriment Jupiter, and it always feels as if there's some kind of catch or edge to the benefits. It feels as though kind of like a lot of weird circumstances end up working out for good, but during the process, we have no idea what's happening. Things are a little more straightforward in Cancer, where Jupiter is considered to be exalted. So it's just a really beautiful transit, 12-ish so months. And I'm really looking forward to it. Check where it is in your chart. I'm going to run through kind of like the progression of time of this, Gemini season. And it is very Gemini. Like, not only is Gemini a mutable sign, which is very transitory as kind of the hand over to the next cardinal sign for the next beginning of the season, but it is very transitory and very flip-floppy, which is very, those are very Gemini qualities. So really digging into the quality of Gemini, and I think it will benefit all of us to kind of embody that as we move through the season. So starting off on May 24th, if you're in a different time zone, this is right on the edge of the day. So it might be the 25th if you're in any time zone that is later than EST. But we get Saturn entering into Aries. Then the next transit is Mercury entering into Gemini, which is on May 25th, so right after each other. Then we have the new moon in Gemini, which is extra special because Gemini is housing Mercury, which is the ruler. So we get the Cazimi is not quite here, the Sun Mercury conjunction, but we are moving into a Cazimi that week. So it's a really beautiful rays of the sun. I think the only downside is if you do follow um, medieval astrology, adjacency to the sun is only really great if it's in like exact 1 degree. So there is a bit of blindness in this, but I do think having the ruler and the sign kind of simplifies things. So excited for that. Then we have Venus entering to Taurus on the 6th of June. And, lovely, wonderful energy, Venus in domicile. Also, we're out of the signs that Venus is retrograding through. We've been out of the post shadow for a second, but we're officially out of the signs. So moving past it. I enjoyed especially the Venus in Aries because I am a Venus in Aries. But it doesn't mean that it was easy. So really looking forward to kind of an ease of movement and being able to really dig into Venusian things that we kind of haven't been able to do just because of the transits and what's been going on in the sky. But yeah, that combined with, Jupiter's ingress, this beautiful little loose sextile we're going to get to experience. It's really nice. I don't think it's ever going to be exact. Actually, it's not. But we do get this kind of nice little back and forth between Jupiter and Venus for a little bit. Then we get Mercury going into Cancer on the 8th of June. Once again, when Mercury is not retrograding, it moves really fast. So we just move through the signs. And while I wouldn't say like the intellectual kind of speed part of Mercury does super great in water signs, it is a beautiful time to really get in touch with how we're feeling and expressing ourselves and really sharing where we're at, especially with Venus over there in Taurus. So this lovely, like I said, just beautiful kind of amalgamation of just feelings and connection and really expressing ourselves and how we care for each other. Then Jupiter does move into Cancer the very next day on the 9th of June. Deep sigh. Also, there's no retrograde back into Gemini, so this is the official move in there. So I'm very excited. Yeah, and yes, do I have a natal Jupiter square coming up? But squares get things done. But the nice thing about when a planet moves into a different sign is it does kind of sprinkle a little bit of its own magic on your Jupiter placement, regardless of what those connections are. So all of us are going to be feeling a little softer when it comes to Jupiter things, even if you have a tough Jupiter placement. Um, I'm specifically thinking for some reason of Jupiters that are ruled by Saturn, especially with Saturn in Aries. This is going to soften those edges. So if you're an Aquarius Saturn or Capricorn Saturn, rejoice. And then we move into this full moon in Sagittarius, which is a little tricky because it is going to be square the lunar nodes, which can create kind of an eclipse feeling when a planet squares them. However, we do have the softening of that Jupiter because Jupiter rules Sagittarius. So I'm really excited for like the depth of feeling for that full moon. And last but not least, Mars goes into Virgo. So all the personal planets are shifting. Mercury's shifting twice, Jupiter is shifting, and Saturn is shifting. And not to mention when Saturn ingresses into Aries, it goes straight into, being adjacent. It's not going to go into its exact conjunction until 2026. I think it's February 20th. But, the quality is definitely going to change. We're not going to experience like just Aries Saturn energy until it gets to the later degrees because of Neptune's moment there. Well, moment is a it's a little bit misleading. It's many years. But yeah, and then Mars goes into Virgo. It's a more critical Mars. It's a Mars that might be hyper focused on things that when it takes action does not appreciate when people bring up technicalities that it has not considered. But it is a productive Mars. It is a Mars that gets things done. It's not as flashy as other Marses, but it does, do what it needs to do. So yeah, that is the lineup of the astrology. Check where all those transits are happening in your chart. It'll create a beautiful image for you. Also, if you need a reading, get a reading. When we have these types of months where everything is changing and you don't really know where to put your energy, a reading can be a great way to do that. And as I always say, it doesn't have to be me. It can be another reader, it can be your reader. Although I do offer all of those services. Anyways, so this is a great time for stuff. And part of the reason I say this is because this is your card. It is Kairos, which is the ancient Greek word for, it's very specific. It's almost like we don't have quite the exact translation in English. I think the modern Greek word is like time, but it is about like that moment of like exact specific timing where the universe just kind of comes in and everything is working out for itself. And I will say, when I've been doing readings, kind of the positive action of this year, like the best times for getting things done and connecting to ourselves and really bringing in benefic things and goodness, is Cancer season. So this is the lead up. A lot of stuff that happens in Gemini season is setting you up for a lot of Cancerian action, especially as a Cancer. So it does feel as though this month, pay attention to what's happening. Things are happening in the right time. It feels like a lot of stuff you've been waiting for is going to start to click into place as these planets hit different zodiacal signs. So it's exciting. It's dreams and wishes long waited for are going to be coming true. And it's just, so far, I do these in order from the season. So I've only done Gemini, but so far, the cards are not as insane as they have been since 2025 started. Most of 2025 so far has been like, hang on, guys, it's going to be crazy and you're going to struggle. But this read, it's not free of struggle, but it does feel like we're getting this infusion of energy to move forward. And yeah, Pluto is retrograde and we're having to deal with like the world being insane and garbage, and people in power doing horrible things. But it does feel as though individually we're getting activated. And a lot of the stuff that people have been like, oh, it's never going to work out. You're only yourself. You can't change the world. Joke's on them. Yes, you can. And it feels as though those things and those dreams that you've been having are going to be coming true slowly but surely. Obviously, not all at once, but we're going to start to see the victories of the work that we have been doing, especially with us enduring the earlier part of 2025. But to start off with your tarot cards, we start off with the Devil. For me, the Devil card, yes, it can represent obsession and loss of self and things. However, I don't like representing it just as kind of like the Christian devil belief, which is literally just offloading all of your personal issues onto an archetype, which we can all be guilty of, but I find that Christians tend to do it more. It's either you're a completely sinful, disgusting person, and so you do bad things, or it is like the devil made me do it. Wild behavior. Take responsibility and stop blaming a random spirit or dude on this. But for me, the devil is really about doing things in a way that we haven't done them before and trying stuff that maybe it isn't for us, but we need to experience it in order to decide. And playing with our tools and our experiences and our perceptions of things in order to create something really unique and subversive and maybe counterintuitive to a lot of cultural norms. The devil doesn't play by the rules. The devil does what it wants to do. So do what you want to do this season. And yeah, there's always capability to harm people, but if you are coming from a genuine place of wanting to learn and to do better, and you are actively listening to, minorities and other groups and educating yourself and actively pursuing caring for others and doing things in a healthy way. I'm never really worried about having to interpret this as some kind of monster that's a boogeyman under the bed. The devil is about self actualization, the devil is about calling back your power. Um, there's also an argument that Satan and the devil are different people, but if you combine them as an archetype, truthfully, Satan's only true crime was questioning the powers that be. Question the powers that be. Be thrown out of heaven because you want to know why these massive powers are allowed to do whatever they want and cause whatever harm they want to cause and not get any kind of pushback. That is my double reading. Then we have the Mother of Wands. I love this. For most of the season, we're going to have Mars in Leo. 3 days, I think it's 3 to 4 days before we're going to shift into Virgo. But it is time to call back in and reclaim your power and your strength. Feels like maybe a lot of my cancers, especially having to navigate the Venus retrograde, have kind of, while you have set boundaries and created safer space for yourself, you still have to call that power back in. There are still people who, now that you've set boundaries, are actively pushing back on you. And now is the time to say, no, I don't think so. My power is my power. I'm going to embrace and exist. I want to embrace and exist in. I'm not going to allow people to just, walk into my energy shop and take stuff without paying or expect more from me than they were ever imagining of giving back. My personal belief is that all adult relationships are contractual. There has to be for things to work, and because society is imbalanced, especially if you're in a relationship with someone of the opposite gender, there is always a power imbalance. It's a little different in queer relationships, but even there, patriarchy can show up. So it's really about understanding the quality of your transactions and making sure that everyone is getting a fair shake and that love and care exists. And that kind of love and care is not the kind that likes to punish people, which is not love and care, but people interpret it different ways. But that you are getting fed, that your fire is getting fed in your relationships. And if not, then, what is the point of being in a relationship with someone who doesn't care to give back, who doesn't care to see you shine? Like, how sad is that? So really reconnect with what you want, your desires, your passions, set those boundaries and maintain them, because people are going to push back, especially with all these transits and Saturn shifting. People are going to see that as like an opening to try to recreate past dynamics. The time is now to say no. This is the dynamic I want right now, and if you can't respect that, too bad. So yeah, really call back in your power. Really connect back to yourself this season. And then I love this because we all love a good 6 of Wands. Really lovely, really beautiful. This is the card of little victories in the context of like really massive life events. These are those small ones that sometimes we forget. That thing you've been wanting for a long time and kind of overcame you, and you've gotten it, and you forgot to be like, wow, I did that. That thing that I really wanted 2 years ago seems really small now that I have it, but it's huge that I made that happen in 2 years. Or just, getting some benefic energy in and feeling more free to do and be what you want to be. I also love that it's like little fire brands leading up to a beautiful sunrise. These are the little attainments that get us to that massive, beautiful life event where we get this massive fulfillment and beautiful culmination. So, really celebrate those moments this season. Also, these little firebrand moments are the moments that we get to confirm with the universe what we want. I see this so often with clients when we do karmic remediation or are working on shifting a perspective and moving through past cycles and patterns. The universe will ask you if you want to keep it the way it is. And they will offer you an almost to be like, hey, are you willing to accept less than you deserve? And I don't view it as trickery. It's not. It's the universe being like, are you truly ready and willing to accept the thing that you've been wanting? Because sometimes we're not. And I feel like these little markers, these little firebrands, it's our opportunity to be like, yes, this is exactly what I want. More of this, please. So yeah, when you get something you want, when you experience something you love, be like, thank you and more, please. Why not? And also, if you keep accepting the same thing and not the more please thing, then why would you get anything else? And then we have a beautiful daughter of cups. This Gemini season has so much capacity to teach us about what we want and desire and our capacity for emotions and emotional connections. Especially, we're still coming off of that Venus retrograde. We're still establishing our new emotional boundaries. And I think it's also a time to experiment, to see what works and what doesn't work. The daughter in this deck represents pages, so really engaging in and really connecting with your feelings and emotions this season and allowing those emotions to be variable. You don't have to accept the first emotion you feel. And you're not beholden to other people to be the same person you were yesterday. Like everyone changes, and Gemini season is really about the fact that everyone changes. So embody that, enjoy the Gemini of it all, and don't force yourself into having to be the same. Be the daughter of cups, change and shift and play with the feelings you get to experience. And last but not least, when we are experiencing all these wins, when we're experiencing these change, when we try something new, we do have to face the past. We do have to face our wounding and our pain and the ways in which people have not shown up for us or the ways in which we have harmed others. That is what boundary setting brings up. That is what communication with other people and groups brings up. And so know that as you are shifting and growing and stepping into your full self, you are going to have to face parts of yourself that hurt really badly. And especially since Mars will be going into its trine with Chiron and Aries. I can't remember exactly when, but I think it'll be like mid Gemini season. Um, and that's okay. The pain that you feel is valid and necessary for you to understand and create the life that you want. Pain, speaking of Aries and Saturn going into a fire sign, the Mars ruled sign, Mars is about pain. Um, Pain is often the guideline that we have for our limitations. It also is a guideline that we have for what we accept in relationships. Um, so listen to your pain, listen to what's coming through. And I'm going to read this last card because it was actually in the Gemini pull too. Three of Cups. Finding people who honor and respect your pain. Finding people who care about you, reconnecting with friends. At least for me in Venus retrograde, I connected with a couple people, but pretty much offline for everyone else. Reconnect with people who really value who you are and your experiences and aren't afraid of the parts of you that are really big and emotionally loud and expressive, and really enjoy the fullness of who you are, my dear Cancer folks. All right, my loves, and that is my reading for Gemini season. If you enjoy my content or anything like that, please like and subscribe. It really makes my day. And also, blessed Gemini season. I see so many beautiful things coming your way. Obviously, we have to face parts of the past in order to progress. But I do feel like all of this is in aid of you progressing and moving forward and finding the things you enjoy, especially with that first card, Kairos. The timing for all the things you've been waiting for is right on the cusp here. We're walking into it. So open yourself up to that. Anyways, I will see you later.